Come with us on a musical adventure into America's golden age of sail. I am a troubadour. I believe that songs, the old songs, resurrect spirits. And that's what we're doing here, resurrecting spirits. We mix up some history buffs, some regular folk, and some traditional musician singers, ship them out on a wind-blown, time-traveling journey into the past, aboard the square topsail clipper schooner, Shenandoah. The Shenandoah is perfect to our purpose. Both she and her master, Robert S. Douglas, are unique. And the two of them together, well, they can catch you up in a time warp and carry you back to when men rode horses and ships rode the wind.
Oh, Shenandoah, I took an ocean far.
This is an absolute anachronism for 2007. There's no other vessel rigged and operating like this in the world. There's no square topsail schooner with no power. There are now 5 new topsail schooners been built in this country within the last 10 years, but they're all auxiliary power. And that makes a major difference in how you behave.
Heaving way, hey, well, up she rises away in the hay. Up she rises way, hey, up she rises early in that morning. Hey, what shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in that morning. Way, hey, well, up she rises way, hey, well, up she rises way, hey, well, up she rises early in that morning. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Put him in the bed with the captain's daughter. Early in that morning.
Sea shanties, those are the work songs on board these big old sailing ships. And there's a lot of power that the wind produces in these sails. And these are heavy things. In fact, some of the sails on this boat, they're really big ones. If we're in the middle of pulling up a sail and a rain squall comes through and gets the sail wet, that can add another ton of weight to the whole operation. So you have to pull together to make things happen. You can go 1, 2, 3, heave, 1, 2, 3, heave, or you can sing a song. And the song is called the shanty, the sea shanty, and the fellow who knows the songs, that would be me, would be the shanty man. And my job is to set the tempo for hauling on the lines to get the maximum strength out of the pull. And all different kinds of work have all different kinds of pulls. But again, the whole idea is to coordinate everybody to pull at the same time.
On the deck, well, the baby gets a hold me by the collar. If you don't sing the song, I'll break your neck. How you lay back, how you lay back, bring in the slack, bring in the slack. We'll take a turn upon this windless heave of haul. Well, navigation boys be handy, handy.
Thank you very much.
There's a magic Sometimes she's almost bewitched.
He who will this health deny. Dead men down among the dead men. Down among the dead men, let him lie.
No evening or week would be complete without Pirate Night. Very important, historical, and we recreate some of the wonderful things about pirates. For instance, the only socialistic democratic republic in the world in 1700 was the pirate realm.
Say Anthony, say wantonly, say Dantonly, he played a tune and he danced it around about the gallows tree.
She is pretty much a 19th century sailing vessel. And the sea had such an input into all of American society that even some of the slang terms that we use or take for granted actually came from nautical environment. For instance, the term uptight out of sight. That really has to do with stowing the squaresails up on the yards, uptight. You roll it up tight so it's sitting on top of the yard so that when the mate comes by or the captain and he looks up at the rig, those sails are stowed up tight out of sight. Okay, another phrase would be between the devil and the deep blue sea. That's where I am right now. Yes, because see, the outside plank of the deck of the vessel is called the devil. And I'm leaning against the rail. The plank is over here, so I am between the devil and the deep blue sea. Having the devil to pay. Well, all the planks are caulked. That's paying them. And that devil plank, because it's curved, has all kinds of steps in it as it goes. So it's really twice as long, the seam, that you're paying, you're caulking. So you have the devil to pay. It's the poor fellow who's got that last plank. He's got to do twice as much work. A skyscraper. Well, that originally referred to the tall rig on a sailing ship. They'd say, oh, she's a real skyscraper. That's where that comes from. On a sailing vessel, or even in the old forts, of course, the cannon would fire cannonballs. And these are usually iron balls, about that big, some even bigger. Now, they would roll around all over the place, but you wanted to have them stacked where you could get them near the cannon. So in order to stack them so they wouldn't roll around, they created what was called a monkey. And a monkey looks just like those triangular things you use to hold the pool balls on a pool table close. So what you do, it's made out of brass. And that way it won't rust to the iron ball. So you've got this brass triangle. It's called a brass monkey. And you might start figuring out where I'm going with this. So it gets really, really cold. And these cannonballs are stacked up in a triangular pyramid inside of this brass monkey. When it gets so cold, the brass keeps contracting. It gets smaller and smaller. This triangle, where if it gets so cold, it goes in under the first set of cannonballs, and the cannonballs go boom all over the deck. That, my friends, is freezing the balls off a brass monkey. That's another thing. In the old vessels, you're going to listen to music, you make your own music.
My captain, he stood on the quarter deck, a brave little man was he. Overhaul, if your day the tackle fall. Launch your boats for sea, brave boys. Launch your boats for sea. If the Yankees, you would have a song and a decent nation find one. In the chorus all along
Danny boy, the pipes are calling from glen to glen and down the mountainside. The summer's gone and all the flowers are dying. It's you must go and I must buy.
Her loving eyes will greet you with kind welcome everywhere. Rolling home across the sea, rolling home to dear New England, rolling home, dear land, to thee. Old Mammy Red from Marblehead hanged from a tree till she was dead. By the way, this comes from the 9th century. You must answer me questions 9. Sing 99 and 90 to see if your gods are one of mine. Are you the weaver's Bonnie?
Farewell to Tarwathie, adieu Mormon Hill, and the dear land of Crimond, I bid ye farewell. I'm bound out for Greenland and ready to sail, in hopes to find riches in hunting the whale. Farewell to my comrades, for a while we must part, and likewise the dear lad who first won my heart. The cold coast of Greenland my love will not chill, and the longer my absence, more loving he'll feel. Our ship is well rigged and she's ready to sail. The crew, they are anxious to follow the whale, where the icebergs do float and the stormy winds blow, where the land and the ocean is covered with snow. The cold coast of Greenland is barren and bare. No seed time nor harvest is ever known there, and the birds here sing sweetly on mountain and dale. But there's no bird in Greenland to sing to the whale. There is no habitation for a man to live there, and the king of that country is the fierce Greenland bear. And there'll be no temptation to tarry long there. With our ship bumper full, we will homeward repair. Farewell to Tarwathie, adieu Mormon Hill, and the dear land of Crimond, I bid ye farewell. I'm bound out for Greenland and ready to sail, in hopes to find riches in hunting the whale.
For me as a troubadour, this vessel is almost a sacred thing, because I really believe that when I sing the old songs and you put them within the proper context, it's like you're resurrecting spirits, ghosts, if you will, of our ancestors. And whether it be sitting around a campfire on a Civil War battlefield, or in some old fortress, or some early settlement, even some old graveyard. In this case, this is a time machine, an anachronism. This is something from the mid-19th century that exists almost exactly now as it existed back then. What better place to resurrect spirits? The vessel is a world unto itself. That's the way vessels were back in the old days. Once you cut clear of the land, this was your planet, this was your environment. And everything that you did had to take care of your particular environment. And that's what this vessel is. We could cut ourselves loose from the shore and go somewhere for a month. Of course, we'd have to get food and water now and again, but that's now and again. Yeah, fresh water. That's a problem. It's always been a problem for vessels because you need fresh water to live. So we carry about 3,000 gallons of fresh water on this vessel. We don't need gasoline. However, we do need coal because our stove is coal, not electric and not gas, it's coal. So yes, we fill up a big bin full of coal and we're all set. The machines that run this vessel are run by human muscles. And you'll see that when we raise in the anchor on the windlass. That's a machine, the windlass, but it's powered by human muscle power. The same with all the lines raising the sails. We have the bosun's locker, the locker that contains all of the tools that the vessel needs to exist. Because if we were out sea, in fact, in the old days, we would carry extra timber with us. So that if we were to break a spar or something like that, the ship's carpenter would fashion another one while we're at sea. In fact, pirates, in the days of pirates, the first thing that they would look for when they take a vessel would be that ship's carpenter, because he would be one of the most valued members of the crew to join with them, because he is the one that's going to help keep their world in existence. And that's one of the beauties, I say, of this vessel. There's very little on this that applies to the modern age. Now, we do have a generator. That generator is necessary now because we're required, and this is a good thing, to have a radio. And that radio runs on electricity. So we run the generator for a little while in the morning, and that supplies the batteries so that we can shut off everything. But now we have the radio. We have to recharge it again another morning or a morning after. That is a modern thing that we have. Other than that, there's not much here. You probably have seen or will see that when you take your shower, there's no such thing as a shower back then. A cold shower maybe. You can jump over the side, soap up, and you sit up under the freshwater pumps that are attached to our 3,000 gallons of fresh water that we carry, and you pump yourself over with fresh water, because everybody knows that you never get dry if you've been in salt water, at least not around the ocean, because there's so much moisture in the air. You leave the salt on your skin, it collects the moisture, you're always kind of wet and sticky, so you have to have fresh water to get the salt water off. Another thing we have attached to the generator is a pump and a big hose. Now what happens in the morning is the first mate comes by with this big fire hose basically and pours water everywhere. And then the crew come by with their brooms and their brushes and wipe the water up. That's salt water we're pumping straight up from the ocean. Back in the old days, you would have done it with buckets. We would just been hauling up buckets. It would have taken a lot longer, hauling up buckets and washing everything down. Now we're not just washing everything down to make it nice and clean, although that is one of the effects of washing down. No, a wooden vessel has to be kept wet to be tight. So all the wood is swollen and all the seams are tight so it doesn't leak. So that's basically, and also with salt water, you keep flushing it over. That also helps prevent the rot. So you see, it's really an essential thing, again, to keep your world afloat and working and together. One of the many things about the old-time vessels. Old-time vessels always carried a couple cannon, just like we do, 3-pounders, because you can never be certain when you might need them. You see, because you were responsible for your own protection. You're out at sea. You didn't have radios back then. That's just one of the many, many things about this vessel that carries you back into the 1850s. And you won't find that any place else. I'll tell you something else. And this is a hard one for people, modern people, to get used to. We don't have an engine. You can probably hear an engine in the background right now, a powerboat going by. So everything we do depends on the winds. And if you're in coastal areas, the tides, because the tides flow. They don't just go up and down. They flow one way, they flow the other. So if it's a really light wind, so it could maybe push us, say, 3 knots, and we want to get someplace that we can see over yonder, but the tide is flowing against us at 4 knots, well, no matter how hard we sail, and we could be sailing, we're still going to be going a little bit backwards. And in fact, that may be where the term "you can't get there from here" came from. You can see it, but you have to wait until the tide turns or the wind gets stronger and will push you against. So you just sit on your anchor and you wait. And modern people, particularly adults, aren't used to that. No, they're used to saying, oh, push a button, we'll get there. But you can't get there from here on an old sailing vessel. You have to wait for the conditions to be right. And I'll tell you something else. A lot of those shipwrecks that we hear about, horrible shipwrecks, didn't happen because all of a sudden a big storm came up and blew everything all to kingdom come. No, no. Some of the worst shipwrecks that happened here happened because there was no wind. And the vessel was in deep water, they couldn't anchor, and the tides were setting them up and setting them up and setting them up till all of a sudden they're coming up on a steep shore and they're up against the rocks. And the vessel is destroyed. All in slow motion. Could take 4, 5, 6 hours. It's one of the things the captain has to think about all the time. Although on this vessel we're lucky because you see, we're doing it mostly for the pleasure. We don't have to actually get a cargo to a certain place.
It is a unique way for us to understand American history, to learn about history, to learn about a way of life that was so important for this country that is no longer here. That we're on the only vessel of its kind in this country. And the young men that crew on this boat, these teenage and early 20-somethings, they are living a life that has not been lived for a century or more. And they understand history in a way that can't be taught by a book or any other way. This is living history.